Okay, so I've been working for I think about 2.5 hours. I started a little bit after midnight. Kind of on and off on like the track itself, but with different things. First off, we organized everything, so now it nice and compresses up to just being this little clean thing here. Obviously, we are now in a bit more of a mixing stage than a arranging or a creative stage. Not that mixing isn't creative, but like you're not writing music, you know. But I sent the track to a few people to like get their thoughts, and some pointed out like, hey, you know, for being drum and bass, you really should have the drums be a little bit more front and center. And so I did two things today. One, I just kind of raised the general volume of all of the percussion tracks. So I'll edit in a clip of how it sounded yesterday here. Also put shaper box on a few other things, like the alone lead up here that didn't previously have one. I feel like a bus in the future is probably the right move. Just have all these go through a bus that is going through the one shaper box that's going through all this. But I don't know. It also like gives me a little bit of room to have, you know, certain things be more aggressively taken away. Like I want the bass to really get out of the way of the kick, where the leads maybe need to get a little bit less out of the way of the kick. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe they all need to get out of the way at the same time, but I really don't want it to sound like it's chugging like sidechain compression. Speaking of sidechain compression though, when it came to our little trap breakdown section here, we did a couple things there. One of them, which is that we did actually add some genuine sidechain compression. I spent some time like fiddling around with the compressor here, and like if you listen to like the compressor on this channel here, it creates that distortion when it does when it cuts out of the way, and it does it on all these settings. That one a lot less. The best one was definitely this digital platinum. It's just a pure decrease, but even with it set to like 5 milliseconds here on the release, it takes so long for it to go back up. I ended up turning that one off and trying a different compressor. I tried this Kilohertz compressor that we downloaded way back in the beginning. That seemed to be closer to what I wanted, and in context, it sounded good. There is a little bit of chugging there, but that's a little bit stylistic to trap, so it didn't really bother me in this spot. So basically, we actually changed pretty fundamentally. We actually did it more of kind of a trap style bass now, where the bass actually re-articulates with the kick. But it's also a little bit delayed, or like the notes come in just a little bit late here, so that the kick hits and then the bass hits afterwards. But yeah, other than that, one thing you maybe watched me toggle earlier was this limiter that I went through and put. I like this kilohertz limiter because it actually has a threshold knob, where the default limiter in Logic doesn't have a threshold. So the only way for the limiter to trigger is if the channel is actually peaking out. Which, once you kind of have like a mix set in place, I don't want to have to like bring my volumes all up to where they're like hitting the tops of their meters here to be able to use the limiter. I want to be able to set a threshold for where the limiter kicks in. So I'm not doing this to like actually really dramatically limit anything. It's just like occasionally when you watch this sound play out, you can see it's just knocking off like the top a little bit in a way that I think really is not noticeable or hearable. But I think when you do that to a lot of different sounds, I put one on this as well, you know, and It's not going to do it here because it's in one of the quieter sections, but over here where it's in the louder bit, just every once in a while, it'll take a little bit of extra peak off. And the hope is that, like, by doing that, it makes it to where the master limiter is having to do a little bit less. That like a lot of other things getting caught in little smaller spaces, so that there's not just this one volume knob turning everything down. Every one's a little individual volume knobs being turned a little bit more. The basses are unfortunately like don't need it. Like this is so rock solid. Like you put it on here, it's just not moving. So not putting it on there. But fidgeting with the compression and trying to figure out how to get that right and doing some mixed stuff. I also messed around with putting chroma glow on the overall mix here. Depending on what headphones you're listening to it on, or what speakers you're listening on, that might actually sound really good. One thing that it's definitely doing is just making things louder, which makes it, ooh, that sounds good. But on these headphones, it makes the bass really wubby, and I just couldn't find a setting that I liked, and I couldn't find my own manual setting that I thought genuinely like, ah, yes, this absolutely makes the track better. So I left that off after a bit of messing around. And the other thing I'm really excited about is I finally got span working. If you don't know what span is, it's not an EQ, it's just a frequency analyzer. But it lets me do this. Letting me do this is super cool. One thing I noticed here that I think is really cool and I think is a good sign of a good track is that as I'm like sitting there listening through the sweep like that, you can hear the track at any point. Like there's not like maybe the bass is missing up here in the top end, but like there's enough other harmonic information to like help you hear it still. So even like when we're over here, like listen, like you still hear the basses a little bit in there. You hear all the drums. And obviously, it's not actually only playing sounds that are into this cone, which if you use span and you know how to make it do that, I would love that. I would love to be able to listen to literally only this frequency range. You can see when it's playing, it's showing you all of the frequencies it's playing there. All the ones that are lighting up out here are actually frequencies that are ringing in that moment in that way. This is a thing that like the default EQ and Logic could sort of do, and I was sort of doing with like with this guy, I think. Yeah, I was doing this. I made this small, too big, and then I would slide this around, but it just wasn't as narrow, and it felt like it was like letting too much through. And it was funny, like if I did this and then pulled up span, yeah, most of the track is still making it through here. You know, if you were to move this around, you can see it on the span moving. Some people that use span are probably gonna be freaking out at the average time I've got going here, because if you turn this up, it smooths it out. So I really like being able to look at the track and see, this is bass. These little poppies are that like I love being able to look at the frequencies and know, oh, that peak is this instrument, you know, and I think it helps me like when I can look over here and see all these spikes. All those spikes right there are our lead, our anthemic lead. Like you can just hear it. So I like it being a little bit faster. I feel like it helps me have a better understanding of what is being loud where. Anyways, yeah, a lot of, I think improvements. I think I kind of like tightening up the mix and get into a better place. Don't know what I'm gonna do about the fact that I really like the way it sounds, but we're peaking out at Unity there, and we are still banging the limiter pretty hard still. Sounds good though, so I'm just worried about like what Spotify's gonna do to it. So a few more details and then maybe some mastering stuff, and this track will be good to go. We'll release a single, which will be fun. Quick update on the Boss Fight EP though. CD Baby did approve it. It is finalized and it is going to be shipping out. That was the last thing, was just in case there was some red flag that CD Baby would throw on their inspection on their end. So all systems go. Tomorrow we're gonna do some researching on marketing and thinking about like what are the best ways for us to market the EP right now, most cost-effective ways too. I'm not looking to spend a bunch of money to get 1,000 listens. So yeah, anyways, thanks so much for watching. That's what we did today. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.